This is a very rare poster, therefore very expensive. Hi, I'm Amalia Ulman, and I'm with MUBI at Posteritati, talking about some posters that I like. I love this series of films by Whit Stillman. I rewatched this one recently because he was doing the Ivy League tour in the US, and I saw him at the Princeton Garden Theater. It was great. Also, I remember that very vividly because it was the day that an apartment I moved into in the Upper West Side got approved for me to move in. And this film is all about the differences between the Upper West Side and the Upper East Side, which is where I was moving from. I really love the whole trilogy. I particularly like Barcelona. I always thought it was a very good representation of Spain. He spent a while in Madrid in the 80s. The poster for Barcelona, actually, it's on Seinfeld twice when they go to the cinema. It's on the background.
Yeah, she was very, very good.
This film I find very funny because one of the characters, much like my boyfriend, he's a commie who doesn't read fiction. So there's a lot of discussions between him and the female character about like fiction and nonfiction, and like, you know, in this way it's sort of like how it's more masculine to only read nonfiction or something like that. I love Bob Fosse. I love all that jazz, and I love cabaret. I know all of the songs, and I learned to do all the dances and all the acts in the film when I was a teenager. But it was a secret, so I would just do it in my room. But I've never performed it for anybody. I watched it first, I think, like as a preteen or teenager. I think I saw a lot of films from the 70s during that time, and a lot of them are obviously about Nazism, but the style is always very similar, like the way they're filmed, and like the costumes look very similar. It's like 70s, 30s, 20s, 30s, and I used to be very put off by that aesthetic. And it's an aesthetic that I've only started appreciating more now. I think I just found it creepy or something. It's like the whole aesthetic in the teen drum and a lot of those films. But yeah, cabaret, despite the aesthetics, I was so obsessed with the songs that I learned all of them. This is another great New York movie, and this one I'm very attached to because it's pretty much just like Joe Appollonio and I would be Dustin Hoffman, which is Ratso in this film, who's the short brunette with a limp and always sick. I also have a limp and I'm always sick too. And Joe Buck, played by John Boyd, reminds me a lot to Joe Appollonio, like the sexy blonde hunk. And it would be a great Halloween costume, I think. I think this year we could probably do it. Yeah, it's such a great New York movie from the time. They also go to this party, I guess downtown, that is supposed to be the factory, Andy Warhol's factory or something. In Magic Farm, the last scene, which is us inside the bus, we were sort of trying to recreate the ending in Midnight Cowboy. I love this one because it's kind of tacky. It's very telenovela, and I love that for this film. Also, it says Charles Jourdan Cinema Collection, and that's a shoe brand. So it's also giving shopping mall and like women's magazine, anything like that, which I'm really attracted to. Yeah, I love this. Obviously, it's a Japanese graphic. I love Japanese movie programs and Japanese posters in general. But what I find, I don't know much about this, like the Charles Jourdan Cinema Collection, but that company went bankrupt, stopped existing not long after this poster was made. It's a shoe company that in the 60s would make the shoes for Christian Dior and I think Pierre Cardin as well. And I should be gatekeeping this, but there's a lot of really good vintage Charles Jourdan shoes and handbags from the 80s and the 90s before the company collapsed. I watched this film when I was very young, and I went through like a Dogma 95 phase when I was a teenager, and I watched all the films and I cried myself to death. I've heard Chloe describing Magic Farm as Dogma because my character was filming within the film and we used a lot of that footage. I think I always like that sort of like naturalism. I'm not opposed to like working on sets or whatever, but I personally always like working with natural light and like real settings. My favorite part is location scouting and finding really good locations that are good as they are instead of faking them. So I don't know if that's Dogma related, but well, from all the posters that I've chosen, I think this one shows my sensibility the most. I love when posters are very simple, very simple like this. And I'm a huge fan of Hal Hartley in general, and I think there's not one single Hal Hartley poster that I do not like. He's a true independent filmmaker, and a lot of things he does himself and like with a very small group of people that he works with over and over again. And he's great at telling New York stories, but especially Long Island stories, which is where he's from. I think what I like the most about Hal Hartley, and which is also apparent in like Simple Men, is that he creates these working class characters with artistic inclinations that you don't really see in film too much, like a garbage man that's a poet, or somebody who's like from a poor background but is a philosopher or something, you know. And I like seeing that because I think it's pretty uncommon, and I love his sense of humor. Another thing that is very Hal Hartley is that he's a Catholic, and I also don't see much of like Catholicism in American movies, and so there's a lot of nuns, a lot of really cool nuns in his films. Thank you for watching this video, and thanks for listening to me rant about all these posters and all the fun facts that I have about them. My film Magic Farm is out in theaters right now, and I guess will be streaming soon. Thank you, MUBI, for inviting me here.